Over the last 90, 100 days, I have been making a coded shop game, but I've had a challenge. I can only have the lines of code be 3 times as much as the subscribers on my channel. I started this when I only had about 50, 60 subscribers, and by the end, I had around somewhere about 170. I'm going to go over the process today. So, the first 2 days of the challenge, I dedicated it to making the player character be able to move on the key presses W, A, S, and D standardized. You can see day 1 on the left, where I just did the up and started on the loop and did the imports. And you can see the day 2 on the right, where I did all the other 3 key press functions to move. So the first 2 days are about 5 minutes of work. Let's see what the output looks like after that. Damn, it doesn't look too good. However, considering that I made it over about the course of 10 minutes so far, that's actually pretty good. The next 2 days, day 3 and 4, were miscellaneous based. Day 3 was about creating a little bit of a side area so that you could place the items down and not have it just look weird. And day 4 was about making the character both not draw on the ground, because that would kind of ruin it if it just gradually got more and more drawn on, but also making it a circle rather than just a pointy thing, which is not much of a difference, but it's a bit nicer. And so this is what it looks like. Now, over day 5, 6, and 7, I had an express goal. The goal was to make it so you could actually take items, right? So, day 5, I had started making pickup functions, right? Made a pickup function so you could just grab items. Day 6, I added in an item to grab. Day 7, I finished up on, making an item. It was cheese. Cheese because mouse because my character. My profile's mouse, so, obvious. The next 3 days, I had another express goal. So, days 8, 9, and 10 were going to be devoted to money and be able to buy stuff, because we had a storage for cheese. And how would you be able to pick up from storage if you had none in the storage? So we used a subfunction which allowed us to increase that storage amount. Day 8, we made subfunction, obtain, to be able to buy stuff. Day 9, we added money to be able to have something for buying. Day 10, we adapted the money. I think I added the money display and added failsafes for if you didn't have enough money. So within the first 10 days, we made very significant progress, but we were nowhere near done yet. So, what we do? Day 11, I was working on the held item variable, so we could actually sell things. Then, day 12, added a customer, right, made it a turtle that would sit in the bottom left-hand corner of the actual game window. Then, day 13, I added more to the customer, made them actually want stuff. So this part added about 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes more of work onto it since I've actually the output, so this is what it looks like now. So, days 14, 15, and 16 were based around making a customer. What we did is, day 14 we started an interaction, day 15 we finished up the interaction, so we had an interaction subfunction, then day 16 we made it so we can actually have a customer. That was 3 days. So, day 17, 18, and 19, I did 3 things. Day 17, I created a line for the customers, so that way you can have a backup, right? Day 18, I created some sprites. First bit of artwork for the game. It's for cheese. Pretty obvious, it's some cheese. Day 19, I added the sprites, and I made a special subfunction called cheese checker. So that way, when you bought more cheese, it would check if the cheese reached a certain threshold to change the sprite. So, day 20, I added the method that you actually can lose. So what I did is, we added a line on day 17, didn't we? So I made it so that if a line gets over a certain amount, this time I chose 30, you would lose. The reason why I did this is I noticed that most of the games with low lines of code are score-based ones. Score-based ones, think mini metro, mini motorways, dumb ways to die, things like that, where they're pretty simple, but you'll gradually get harder within the game, because gradually, line builds up. But also, they have score. So we'll be doing that soon. Score. When you lose, you can remember your score and talk to other people. So day 21, 22, and 23 were all based around the score. 21, we added a score turtle, so that we could print the score out and have you see it. Day 22, we created 2 sprites, one for the score, one for the money. Since our score is just our profit, it looks very similar to money. And then day 23, well, we applied the sprites, we added a sub-function to check them. So the next 3 days, day 24, day 25, and day 26, I had a big goal. I wanted to add more things to sell. And I started with sugar, because apparently mice really like sugar, as in little sugar cubes. So what I did was day 24, I started a sub-function to unlock any new items, starting with sugar. Day 25, I finished that up. Day 26, I actually added in the sugar, and added it into the features that interact, purchase, obtain, pick up, all that. To the introduction of a second item, we needed a method to avoid soft locking. Because if you picked up the wrong item and the customer didn't want it, you just get kind of soft locked. So we had a drop sub function on day 27, then day 28, 29 were something I particularly enjoyed. I was adding an advisor NPC. What I had intended for them to do is that they would explain the tutorial initially, then you could interact with them, same way you interact with customers, and they would tell you, hey, here's something you can do, it'll help you. So the next 4 days, day 30, day 31, day 32, and day 33, we worked on the nighttime in the game. And what it would do is it would cut the line down, it would let you upgrade things, and so that's what we worked on. Day 30 and 31 were just the working on the night thing. Day 32 made it so the advisor would well recommend you to upgrade stuff. And then day 33, we finished up on it by finishing the unlock or upgrade sub-function. So day 34, 35, and 36 were a bit mixed in my goal. Day 34, I made the sprites for the sugar. Day 36, I applied the sprites for the sugar. But day 35, the day in between them, I decided to do a review of what I'd done so far. And, I'll just let past me explain it. Hello, all you lovely computer scientists. Today is day 35 of Free Lines of Code in my Qt Code update for every subscriber on my YouTube channel. This is a review of everything we've done so far. So in total, we have 147 lines, which means we've got about 120 more lines before we are unable to do anymore because we don't have enough subscribers to do so. All those lines, we spent about 6, 7 on adding in individual PNGs for our things, 4 of them on the cheese. We spent about 40 on the turtles. We've spent I'd say about 150 on the define of the functions. Spent about 10 exactly on our key press subfunctions and our listening subfunctions. And the other 25 is on our while loop, when we've actually got things updating. Lots of customers, the line changing, the night happening. Okay, so you've just seen the output, but 4 more days I did day 37, day 38, day 39, and 40. What I did for day 37 is I just finished up on the sugar thing, because I didn't actually finish it fully, just a little bit. Well, day 38, I added in a turtle for the snake oil. Day 39, I did a little bit more on the snake oil turtle, and the snake oil in general. And day 40, I organized things, made it nicer to look at, put stuff around a bit more so that I could see it better, work on it better, all that. The next day, day 41, was a kind of special occasion because it was special because someone actually gave me a recommendation. They commented a recommendation to add a night shift into the game. And what I did is I added that in, right? Day 41 was me adding in a night shift. Because, and by the way, for this entire thing, I was accepting comments and adding in whatever they said. But I added it in, and it was lovely. Comments are very welcome. I added them all. So, another 3 days. What they were was day 42, I added in failsafes, that way less errors, less logic errors. Day 43, I added in a tutorial, the advisor mouse. The advisor would just say, hey, here's some advice, you move WASD, you buy things with O for obtain, all of that, tutorial a little bit. And day 44, I just made the code a little bit more efficient, made it run faster. And considering the challenge is based around how many lines of code, being more efficient, less lines of code means more challenge overall. The next 2 days, day 45 and day 46, once again came from a commenter suggestion. What they suggested was adding cheeses with special effects. So I thought, what kind of special effects could you have? I thought of one immediately. I thought of one which would increase the amount of money you get. So if you use it right, you will more than make up the cost that it took to get said cheese. So day 45 we started on it, day 46 we finished up on it, and it was sat down at the bottom right corner, money cheese. It was satisfying and fun to do what a commenter suggested. Again. So, next 2 days, day 47 and 48, we had one main idea, and that was the snake oil sprites. So, what we did is, day 47, we made the sprites for snake oil. Then, day 48, we added them in. We had the snake oil checker, which would check the storage amounts of the snake oil, and then change the snake oil sprite appropriately. The next 2 days were simple. Day 49, I made the code a little bit more efficient, because like I said before, less lines means more challenge overall. Then, day 50, I once again did a request by commenter. The commenter requested that bananas be added to the game. Mice quite like bananas anyway, so it's a very fitting item. But it is the last item I would add, and I'm less than halfway done, so the next episodes are more complex. Day 51, day 52, day 53 were extremely simple. We were just saving lines of code by, instead of using global, we used a class. Day 54, we started on a subfunction which would go inside of our bigger subfunction, so that was about 30 lines of code. Day 55, we actually put the subfunction in, and then day 56, we finished up on the banana because we've got to add certain features, such as the advisor, saying something about it. So, day 57 and day 58, we started on our second subfunction, and then the next 2 days, day 59 and day 60, we did our third subfunction. These would go into the unlock or upgrade, and I think sub-purchase respectively. So the next 2 days were day 61 and day 62, and what they were doing was day 61, we created 4 sprites for the banana, and day 62, we created a subprogram to change a sprite based on 4 different storage thresholds. Then, day 63, we started on a sub function. So we made sub unlock, which would go inside our unlock sub function. And then we, on day 64, just added that in. And day 65 was a very miscellaneous one. We just made the character's movement feel better, We split it up more so that it was less jittery. For the next 6 days, yes, 6, were all to do with our mice. And what they were was, day 66 was creating the sprite for the advisor, day 67 was applying the sprite for the advisor, day 68 was creating the sprite for our main character, day 69 was applying said sprite, day 70 was creating 4 separate sprites, exactly 5, for the customers. Then the day after that was applying those 4 sprites. So on day 72, we put in the secret sprite, because when we were making the 4 sprites for the customers, we did make a secret spooky one, because it was Friday the 13th when I recorded it. So day 72, we put that in, nice and hidden. Then, next 2 days, day 73 and day 74, we just made a failsafe so that when you go off the edge of the screen, you would be put back onto the center of the screen. Now at this point, it's been a decent little bit since you've seen what the output looks like, so I'll just have an output here so you can see roughly what it is so far. The next 2 days, day 75 and day 76, focused all around the customer and the line. What we did on day 75 is a little area at the bottom so it looked nicer, so that the customer didn't look like they were just stood there, out in the open. Then day 76 made it so you could upgrade the line to have extra capacity. We had a explicit goal the next 2 days. That was a file to keep track of people's scores. So, day 77, we added the file in, so that whenever you lose, you input your username, then it gets added to the file. Then the next day, say 78, we made it so that when a username was inputted after it was already in the file, it would replace whatever was in the file with a higher value. The next 2 days were completely miscellaneous, right? What they were was on day 79, we uploaded a video saying, "Hey, all the audience, we'll let you come up with a name for the game." And then the next day was day 80, and the failsafe that we added before to stop the player from moving on the border, we made it so that would also happen on the game over, so that way you also couldn't move. So that way it was more impactful. Let me check my watch. Oh, it's been quite a bit since you had an output, so I'll put one here while I'm speaking. The next 3 days, day 81 we added the thief, started working on it. Day 82 we upgraded the thief, so that way it could more visibly take things and you could report it. And then day after that, day 83, we made it so that you'll get rewards if you reported a thief, but downsides if you reported someone who was not a thief. So, day 84 and day 85 were, neither of them had a specific focus. Day 84 we gave the milestone a name, based on the subscriber. They're named Misek. And day 85 we saved about 35 lines of code by combining every turtle.clear and turtle.write into just one line. Contrary to the previous 2 days, we actually did have a pretty big goal on day 86 and day 87. So day 86 we created 4 sprites for the money cheese, which had been sat down in the corner this entire time. Then obviously day 87, we made them yesterday, we applied them today. So day 87 was just applying them, and we made the money cheese checker to apply them properly. When I had finished making day 87, I had a bit of an idea, and I saw my print statements, and I thought, there's a lot of them that were just right after one another. So let's pop them all together in one, and use \n. And then also do the same thing with defining statements. So just throw them together, okay, pop them all together, and then just saved about 30 lines of code in total throughout the 3 days, which were day 88, day 89, and day 90. Very efficient. On day 91, I was feeling very creative. Quite creative, do say so myself. So I decided to create 4 sprites for the mouse, our main character, for when he picks up items, one for the cheese, banana, sugar, and snake oil. As you do. In day 92 I applied them and created... I didn't actually create a checker. I made it so that the defined statements for pickup took an extra variable, and that would just be the name of the sprite. And it would just do it. It costed 1 extra line of code in total to apply all those 4 sprites and make the game a good chunk, nicer looking. With the addition of more visual changes when you do stuff, such as your character actually looking like they pick up something, we actually were able to make some redundancies in our code, such as the print statements which told you that you picked up an item, and when you dropped an item. So, literally just knock them out, cut them out on day 93, and then day 94 was also very miscellaneous. We just added a bit of space for the advisor to stand on, because it just looked like he was out on the grass with a desk. It's a bit strange. The next 3 days were very similar in individual concept, but different in the actions that they did. Day 95, we created a unique sprite for when you eat the money cheese, applied it, then removed the redundancies that it made. Then day 96, we made a custom sprite for when you upgrade an item, we applied it, we removed the redundancies that it's made. Day 97, we created a custom sprite when things are not unlocked yet, and it will change when you unlock them. That made some redundancies, so we removed them too. The final 2 days were almost just a cleanup. We didn't add anything new, but we just adapted the tutorial function so that we could call upon it at any time. Just bound it to T for day 98, and day 99 we just made it so you can't move, so we can't just pause the game so nothing would spawn while you're still able to do stuff. So, yeah. So, today is day 100 of having 3 lines of code in my cute secret shop game for every single subscriber on my YouTube channel. 100 days. It's been a long journey. Nearly been since Christmas, when you actually think about it. so not all 100 days in a row. The link for the game will be in the description, no download needed, it's not that big.